Okay.
We're continuing with Shavuot. We're continuing with Daf Kuf He Amud Aleph 105A1. We are finishing today B'Zerat Hashem Masechet Eruvin. We're just going to leave over the last 2-3 lines so that way they could finish it during the Siyum Masechet. It says over here as follows: Amar Rabbi Yochanan. We're starting at the top where it says Rabbi Yochanan comes and he wants to say that according to the one that says that if you're going to bring in a sheretz to the Bet HaMikdash, okay, so therefore they said that he says Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Ushnehem, whether it's talking about Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas and Rabbi Akiva, we're talking about if you're going to bring a creepy crawlers into the Bet HaMikdash, that you're going to be chayav. And the only machlok between them was, how do you take it out? Do you take it out running or less and less, meaning slowly, but less and less than the Daled Amot? Okay? So it says over here like this, Ushnehem, and both of them, Mikra Echad Darshu. They both actually learned it from, right, this concept. What does this mean? From one pasuk. What does that mean? It says in the pasuk, "Vayavoa kohanim lifnima." Okay, so the kohanim come, and this is a pasuk in Divrei Yamim. We're talking about during the time when the Bet HaMikdash was purified during the days of Chizkiyahu HaMelech. So it says, "Vayavoa kohanim lifnima." They came into the Echal of the Hashem, Bet Hashem letaher, in order to purify it. Vayotziu et kol hatumah. They took away all the tumah, which was all the avodah zarah and all the things of the avodah zarah. Hashem atzu b'Echal Hashem, which they found in the Echal of Hashem. Lachatza Bet Hashem to the azarah. By Kablu Levim, Levim, they accepted it, that they were in the Azara, Leotzi Lenachal Kidron Chutz, in order to take it out of Yerushalayim. So therefore it comes out that the Kohanim came into the Bet HaMikdash, they carried the Tum'ah from the Echal to the Azara, but the Kohanim did not give it to other Kohanim, which did not become Tameh. Okay? Why? In order that they shouldn't become Tameh. Which means that the Kohanim that were inside, that were taking out the Tum'ah, they didn't actually purify other new Kohanim. So more savar, so one of them holds, midishtaneh, from the fact that it changed in the fact of the way of taking out the hotzah, which means the way that you're taking out the tum'ah from the hechal to the azara, and then from the azara to the levim, tum'ah ba'azara leka. So therefore, that means it comes out that the tum'ah, leaving the tum'ah in the azara, is not that chamur. So therefore, since it's not that strict, right, there was no permission for the kohanim to impurify other kohanim when they're taking it out. Okay.
I don't get it. I really don't understand the whole thing.
If you remember what we were talking about before.
So there's Tuma.
Okay, there's Tuma. So then we had a question. What are you supposed to do if you already have this Tuma? Are you supposed to come?
Out of there.
Okay, so the question is, do you get it out of there, right? That you have to run, right? Or this is, look, I'll read to you again the Mishnah.
Right, but now you give it to a Levi. Give it to Levi.
Listen to this. It says over here like this. Where do you take out the sheretz on Shabbat? So he said you take it out from the Echal and from the Ulam, and between the Mizbeach and, right, the Ulam and the Mizbeach, which means, remember, the Echal, there was a big building. At the end of the building was the Kodesh HaKodeshim. Yeah. Beforehand was the Echal. Beforehand was the Ulam. The Ulam was the antechamber. Right? Then before, there was in between the Mizbeach and the Echal, the Ulam. Okay, in between. So between the altar and the ulam, there were 22 amot. So in that area also you have to take it out. Okay, why? Because that area is more holy than the other places in the Bet HaMikdash. So therefore they permitted on Shabbat in order to carry. These are the words of Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas. Rabbi Akiva comes and he says, any place where if the person comes in, he's going to be chayav. If he comes in, he's going to be chayav karet. If he was impure, so too from there you're allowed to take out the sheretz. Which means that basically what is happening is Rabbi Akiva is arguing with Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas, and he's adding in a bigger space, which means not only is it just from the Mizbeach onwards, even from beforehand. If a person is going to become chayav mitah, not mitah mamash, but chayav karet, if he comes in, if he's going to be tameh, so too he's going to become, he's mutar, he's permitted to take out the sheretz on the Shabbat. Okay, so now what happens is as follows, right? Rabbi Yochanan comes, and he brings down that we wanted to say that this words of Shemuel is actually a machloket Tanaim. Okay, which means like this, right? Later on the Gemara comes, and the Gemara says as follows, right? The Gemara was talking about how do you take out the Tumah? Do you take it out running or don't you take it out running? Do you take it out slowly? So the beginning of the Gemara started by saying, Amar of Tavi Bakastam Shemuel, Hamachnis Tameh Sheretz HaMikdash Chayav. Right, sheretz atzmo patur. If you're only going to bring a clear utensil, right, you're going to be chayav, but not the creepy crawler itself. Why? Because he comes and brings down the pesukim. And then we kept on going back and forth. We wanted to say that it's a machloket tanaim. Do you take it out with the belt or not with the belt?
So far, I'm with
Okay,
you.
very good. So now the Gemara says like this. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says, we were talking about that somebody that's going to bring in a sheretz to the Bet HaMikdash, you're going to be chayav, not like Shmuel. Shmuel said, if you bring in a sheretz, you're patur. Only if you bring in a utensil that became impurified from a sheretz, you're going to be chayav. So first of all, we're not going like Shmuel, right? We're saying that if you're going to bring in the creepy crawler itself, meaning the bug itself, you're going to be chayav. So comes Rabbi Yochanan and he
The other
says,
way around, the utensil.
no, that's only according to Shmuel. We don't go according to Shmuel. That's what we just said. That means Rabbi Yochanan is not going according to Shmuel. He's saying even if you bring in the creepy crawler itself, you're still going to be chayav. So he says, Ushnehem. Now we are going back in the Mishnah, which we had the Bishimon and Nasar and Bekiva, that if you remember, the difference between them was, do we only say it's the Hechal, Ulam, and the place between the Mizbeach and the Ulam, or do we say anywhere where you are going to be chayav karet if you go in when it's going to be tameh? So says the Gemara, Ushnehem, whether we're talking about Bishimon and Nas and Rabbi Akiva, they both learn it out from the same pasuk. They both expound it from the same pasuk. Mikra echad darshu. What does that mean? It says in the pasuk, "Vayavo hakohanim lefnima bet Hashem l'taher v'yotzu et kol hatumah asher matzu be'echal Hashem." So the kohanim come in inside. What does it mean inside? To the echal. It's inside the actual room. Okay, remember they're not going to be going into the kodesh kodashim because that's only the kohen gadol on Kippur, right? But they're going into the echal in itself, and they're taking out from the house of Hashem all the different tum'ah, which is basically the avodah zarah, in order to purify it. So v'yotzi et kol hatumah. What is the tum'ah here? The tzlamim, all the idols of avodah zarah. Because the rabbis were the ones that decreed also tum'ah on that, just like a tumat sheretz or tumat nidat. It's the same thing, okay? That which they found in the echal of Hashem. Where do they take it out? Lachatza bet Hashem, to the azara, okay? To the chatzer, it's to the azara here, to the courtyard. By kabelu levim, so the levim that they are in the courtyard, they received it. Leotzi lenachal kidron chutza, in order to take it outside of Yerushalayim. Now, if so, the kohanim that came into the mikdash to take the tumah outside, they didn't give it to other kohanim that weren't tmeim until now, right? To take it out of the azara. Well, why? In order not to be mitameh those kohanim. Only the Leviim, they were the ones that continued taking it out. Now, why is this exactly? What are we doing here? What are we trying to do exactly? So he says like this. More Savad Shimon ben Anas says, Midi Ishtani, which means for the fact that we changed in the way of taking out the tumah from the echal, from the fact of how we changed, how we take it out from the azara, right? Why? Because we changed by giving it now to the Leviim. That teaches you that tumah ba'azara leka, that there's no tumah ba'azara. Which tumah ba'azara, that there's no tumah in the azara, which means like this. 1 second. Listen carefully. What did Shimon ben Anas say? He said that where is the tumah of tumat sheretz? Only from the mizbeach onwards. Meaning the mizbeach, the 22 amot until you get to the ulam, the antechamber, the altar is the mizbeach, yeah? So the antechamber and the hechal. So you have from the mizbeach onwards, okay? But you don't have the rest of the azara. So comes Shimon ben Anas, and he says, 1 second, why is it that the kohanim changed and they only gave it from the azara onwards? Why did they do that? To teach you that there's no tum'ah in the azara. So therefore, he's bringing a proof from this same pasuk, right? Because again, they're both going to bring it from the same pasuk. So he's bringing a proof from the same pasuk.
How does it prove there's no tumah in the azara because the kohanim switches with the levy in the courtyard?
Because if not, so then why didn't they give it to other kohanim? I mean, the fact that they had to switch and they give it to somebody else, that means from then onwards there's no tumah. So
why
therefore,
are they switching in the first place? Why don't they just take it out?
Who's taking it out?
Why can't the kohen just take it out?
Here it says
why give it to
they didn't
kohen?
want to do it with through an avera, which means the fact that these kohanim were already tameh, they don't want themselves to take it out. That's what Rashi says. Through the kohanim, but rather they wanted to do it through heter, right, with the Leviim. So therefore, they wanted to do it with somebody else.
Out on Shabbos? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, yeah. Well, here we're talking about just stam tum'ah in the Bet HaMikdash. So here it says, leaving the tum'ah in the Bet HaMikdash, there's no difference between a kohen and a Levi. Okay, which means
that's where I'm getting hung up about switching it over. I don't understand.
They purposely switched it over, so now it's the pure people which are switching it over. Now they didn't want to give it to other kohanim. Now
the pure people are going to get tameh now.
Yeah, but they're Levim. They're fine to become tameh. We don't want a kohen to become tameh.
What's the difference?
Because a kohen has to do service in the Bet HaMikdash.
Well, what's a Levi also is
no, but not the same thing. It's not the same. Yeah? So he says that the Levim are only singing, but it's not like the same as the Kohanim. They have to actually do the service. So he says, so what happened? So from there in itself, Rabbi Shimon ben Anas says, from this pasuk is bringing a proof that there's no tum'ah in the azara. Okay? More Savar Rabbi Kiva holds, ad heicha de lo efshar beleviim mafke kohanim. Hashta de efshar beleviim tul metame kohanim. He said no. He says Rabbi Akiva, it's a different yisod. The Leviim are not allowed to go further in. Meaning, in the Bet HaMikdash in itself, there were certain places which was, for example, called Azarat Yisrael, which means that the Israelim were only allowed to go to a certain place. Then afterwards it continued. So therefore, what happens is that he's saying that until where the Leviim were allowed to go in, they were allowed to go in, but they can't go further in. So therefore, the Leviim go until the maximum where they're allowed to travel and enter in the Bet HaMikdash. From there, the Kohanim have to take it out. So therefore, he says, "Hashta dev shabelevim tulu metamem karim." So once
Where
already,
are you at Tana Rabbanan already, or not? Are you way past that?
No, I didn't even get there. I'm almost there in 1 second. So therefore, basically, what are we trying to say? We're trying to say that until the Leviim can travel, that's where the Kohanim took it out. So therefore, it was the job of the Kohanim to take it.
That's where the Leviim took it out.
Exactly. That's where the Leviim took, not the Kohanim. So we purposely didn't want the Kohanim to. The only thing is, the Leviim can't go where the Kohanim are. So therefore, the Kohanim have to become Tomei automatically in order to take out the Tumah. Then all of a sudden, comes the Leviim. Fine. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a Braita. Hakol nichnasim ba'echal livnot, letaken, ulotzi et hatumah, umitzvah ba'kohanim. So says halacha, technically speaking, mitzad halacha, everybody is allowed to go into the echal to build, to fix, and to take out the tumah. However, though, even though here it's written everybody, which means it includes Leviim and Israelim, still the mitzvah lechatechila is only that it should be done by Kohanim. Meaning that there's going to be some Kohanim that have to become builders, or constructors, or all these things, or just to get out of Tumah, bring out Tumah. Why? The mitzvah is in the Kohanim lechatechila. Now, if you mention Kohanim, now there's no Kohanim, nichnasim Leviim. Then the Leviim have the second rights. If you mention Leviim, if there's no Leviim, nichnasim Yisraelim. Then the Yisraelim come.
The animals, the courtyard?
No, this is the Echal. The Echal is
where the menorah is?
Where the menorah, exactly. Where the menorah and the Shulchan is, that's the Echal, and the Mizbach HaPnimi, which is the inner altar. Right? Mizbach Zahav, the golden altar. That's inside. Okay? And then you have the Kodesh Kodeshim further back. So now if there's no Kohanim, you have Leviim. If there's no Leviim, then you have Yisraelim. The Idi, right? Whether it doesn't matter whether they're going to be Kohanim or Leviim Yisraelim, Tehonim in, only if they're Tahor, they're allowed to go inside. Tamim, no. If they're Tamim, they're not allowed to go inside. So Amar Rav Huna says, Rav Huna, right? Rav Kahana Mesaya Kane, right? Rav Kahana is helping the Kohanim. Why? You're going to tell me he's no Gabadavar because he's a Kohen, no? Yeah, he comes and he says like this. He says, right? That's what Rabbi Yochanan says. Rabbi Yochanan says that Rav Kahana was a Kohen, right? However, though the Tosafot told that he wasn't a Kohen, but okay, it doesn't matter, whichever it is. So he says Rav Kahana, right? It sounds like Kohen in his word, in his name, yeah? So it says, Amar Rav Huna, Rav Kahana is Mesaya Kohen. Why? The Tanya Rav Kahana taught, since it said in the Pasuk, Achela parochet lo yavo, right? That they should not come to the parochet and to the Mizbeach, right? So from here we learn that it's a sur for a Kohen Balmum to go inside of the Echal. Okay, that means basically a Kohen that has any type of a defect is not allowed to go into the Echal. So therefore it's even prohibited for him to go inside of between the Echal and the Mizbeach. Okay, so he's not allowed to go not only just into the Echal, for any purpose. Right? So says the Gemara, I would have thought that the Kohanim cannot go in, right, if they have a defect between the Ulam and the Mizbeach, because remember, between the altar and the antechamber, right? So he says, to do any types of golden adornments in order for the Bet Kodesh Kodashim. Tamulomar, it comes to teach you the word ach. What is the word ach? Ach is lechalek, which is basically differentiating between a Kohen Balmum. And to tell you that the yisur of a balmum, the yisur of a person that has a defect to go into the echal, is not in every single scenario. It's only going to be not for any necessity, or in order to do a service in the Bet HaMikdash, it's going to be asur. But in order to go in to build and everything, it's going to be permitted. So therefore, it's coming out that from the words ach el parochet, ach, only, that's coming to teach you that a kohen, even though he's a balmum, that means he's got defects, he's allowed to go inside all the way into the echal.
Better clean Israel.
Okay. So says the Gemara, mitzvah betmimim, en shan tmimim nichnesim ba'ale mumim. Says the Gemara, just like we said before, that everyone was allowed to go inside, even the Yisraelim, but there's still a mitzvah in the Kohanim. If there's no Kohanim, there's a mitzvah in Levim, there's no Levim, mitzvah in Yisraelim. So too, the mitzvah lechat techila is only if they're tmimim, which means if they're 100% complete without any type of blemishes. En sham tmimim, if there's no tmimim, nichnasim ba'alei mumim. So then ba'alei mumim go in. Okay, mitzvah betorim. The mitzvah is always that they're pure. In sham torim, if there's nobody going to be pure, so then you could go in even tmimim. But all these cases are only talking about Kohanim. Yisraelim, no, but not the Yisraelim. So according to this, it comes out that a Kohen Tameh, meaning an impure Kohen, is even before a Yisrael Tahor, a regular Jew that he's pure. That's what's coming out. So therefore, that's what we were saying, that Rav Kahana...
It's a stira from before.
Yes, but Rav Kahana is strengthening the hands of the Kohanim, right? Kohanim. So Ibai Lehu, so they're not going to ask a question. Tameu balmum, what happens if he's got both negatives? Yeah? Right? What happens in that case? Because again, until now we've spoken about what's it better to do, right? We had Kohanim, Levim, Yisraelim, so we always said Kohanim before these Levim, Yisraelim, but now all of a sudden we said, what about a Kohen balmum? So it comes out, right, that a Kohen balmum is even better before the Yisrael. What about if he's both? What about if the Kohen is also Tameh and also a balmum? Okay? So Tameu balmum, what happens if you have... Sorry, we're talking about two Kohanim. Sorry. Two different Kohanim. One of them is Tameh and one of them is Balmum. Who comes first? So says the Gemara, Ezo mehem nichnas. Which one comes first? Rav Chia Barashi and Rav Lachish Barashi says Tameh nichnas. The Tameh goes in. Why? Ta'yishtere b'avodat tzibur. Because at the end of the day, he's allowed to do korbanot tzibur, which means the Kohen that is Tameh, right? Tuma utra b'tzibur, which means Tuma was permitted in a tzibur. So therefore, they're allowed to go in. But a Kohen Balmum was never permitted, even for a tzibur. Which means that a Kohen Balmum was never permitted. So therefore, it comes that a Kohen Tameh is better than a Kohen Balmum. However, though Rabbi Elazar says, Balmum nichnas. A Balmum goes in. Why? A Balmum is always able to eat kochim. A Kohen Tameh is not allowed to eat kochim. So therefore, each one has a different argument, and therefore it comes out that it's a machloket. Which one's better, a Kohen Balmum or a Kohen Tameh? Okay, next, two dots. Rabbi Shimon says, a place where the Chachamim permitted, right? They give it to you. What does that mean? Shimon Echakai. What exactly is Rabbi Shimon going on? So it says the Gemara Hatamkai. He's going on the case that we said on the part of the Mishnah on Bet and Bet. The Tanam we learned in a Mishnah. Imagine right now.
You're not in Bet yet, are you?
There is no Bet.
I'm still in 105A.
There is no base. There's no B.
Okay.
We finished Masechet on A.
You're not done yet, right?
No, I'm not done. So it says over here like this. We learned in a Mishnah, somebody that's traveling on the way on Erev Shabbat, and all of a sudden it got dark outside of the Tchum, Chutz Tchum, right? Afilu Amma Achat, even if he's one Amma outside of the Tchum, Lo Yikanes, he's not allowed to go into the city. Rabbi Shimon says, Afilu Chamesh Esrei Amma, even if it became and he was 15 Amot from the end of the Tchum, Yikanes, he is allowed to go into the city. Why? Right? Because the people that are measuring the Tchum of Shabbat, they don't go until the end.
This earlier.
Yeah. Why? Because it means they don't do it exact. Why? Because the people.
Yours.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, people will make a mistake. So therefore, because of that, right, and they're not going to understand. So therefore, what they did was they purposely made it shorter in order that you should never come to make a mistake. The Ka'amar Tanakama. Now, in this machloket that we spoke about with the Tanakama, that he said, Lo Yikanes, the Amalei Rabbi Shimon says Rabbi Shimon ten, Yikanes, they should go in, right? He's able to go inside, okay? So he says, so it comes out that even if he was not by the siman, by the sign of the Tchum, he's able to come inside. And Rabbi Shimon is not Mekel B'Isur Shabbat, so he only permitted it only just because, right, they gave you yours, which means that technically speaking, this was already yours in order to carry in it. Shelo yitiru lecha ela mishum shvut. So says the Gemara, they only permitted to you to only do any type of avirah, which is only the Rabbanan, not any Doraitas. That's what we're trying to say. So Hechakai, what is this going on? So Hatamkai, right? We're talking about over there, the Kama Tanakama, the Kama said, Koshra, that you're allowed to make a regular Kishiyah. That means if you remember, we were talking about the Kinor, the harp in the Bet HaMikdash that tore, right? And so you're allowed to come and you're allowed to tie it with a regular knot. And Rabbi Shimon came and he said, on Va, you have to do a Kesher Aniva, if you remember, which is like a bow knot. You're not allowed to do it. Why? Because you're not allowed to do it with a regular knot, because that was the Isur Doraita. They only permitted you to do the Rabbanans. So therefore, even in the Mikdash, in the Bet HaMikdash, it didn't permit you to do any Doraitas, only the Rabbanans. Anivadi de lo atile de
So you're
chatat.
telling me you never can do the biblical Isers on Shabbos?
No, there were some, if you remember, to do with the
I
Korban
think that,
Pesach.
of course. I
That's
mean,
what we learned. The Korban Pesach, you were allowed to do it, but not everything. That means they didn't permit you to do all Isur Doraitas in the Bet HaMikdash. Right? The majority of times they permitted you to do the Rabbanans, not Doraitas. Okay, so he says, Aniva, that you'll never come to a Chiyuv Chatat. That's why the rabbis permitted it. But, right? Okay, but obviously the other way around, and I don't want to finish because I want to leave it for the Siyum. So you know exactly what's going on. The other way around, obviously you could come to a Doraita, so obviously it wasn't the same permitted.